Kinda. VIP of Bizarre Interests Productions, and yes, one of my interests is Big Brother and reality TV. Could you tell I'm a fan of some reality TV? No, mostly Total Drama, Big Brother, Hell's Kitchen, one of which I'm saying I'm 100% good enough to talk about on a competitive and strategic level. But hey, my channel and I know most people are respectful. So, remember when I said in the Bachelorette video of things that I would change, I said you kind of need more variety in the casting because, well, the first Asian Bachelorette only has one Asian guy in the cast, and most of the white men who made it far either don't really care for her or had enough legal speculation that they shouldn't have been on the show to begin with, since that would basically make them a danger or liability to the contestants that you should be protecting. But none of you watched that video. But I also said something else.
Plus, look at another popular reality TV franchise, Big Brother. Yes, it's also had a limited number of Asian contestants, but at the very least, now they're up to 2 to 3 out of 16, which isn't great, but at least most of all of them in the recent modern era have been memorable in some degree, especially lately. Matt was an iconic first boot who played like a complete doofus, but at least you remember him. And apparently his relationship with Mackenzie's still going well, which, hey, good for them. Kimo was a sweetheart despite taking way too long to actually make a valid move in the game with T-Core, and he's one of the few people to actually have his eviction speech be strong enough to get him safe from elimination. Rabina had her showmance with Tucker and was honestly a pretty endearing and likable figure. Jack became the first Indian and Sikh winner of Big Brother in 25. Blue was iconic, delusional, chaotic, also made some good points at time, also had no one in her alliance actually back her up, but was way more mature in a relationship than her partner had any right to be. Nicole was a major villain who got turned on by the girl, but she thought she could manipulate and mistreat, but eventually learned her lesson after getting eliminated and is not a better person. Meanwhile, Joseph got to be one of the most likable and well-beloved people from 24 with the showmance with the winner. And Derek X is a king who almost won America's favorite player. Plus, Hannah is half Asian, half black, and is one of the more beloved members of the cast. As long as you avoid Facebook, of course. Video on the Asian modern representation of Big Brother. I'll save that video for May.
Oh, it's May. A few days left before Asian American Heritage Month ends. Well, better late than never. The reason why I said Big Brother was getting better at this was because up to this point, while we've had Asian winners and fan favorites, just like the issue with Big Brother's black contestants until 23, not only were they still outnumbered, but a lot of nasty behavior persisted with non-white players getting the brunt of it, whether because some were recruits, got caught up within the toxicity themselves, or went home early because of that. Now, if you count Celebrity Big Brother seasons alongside US ones, we have had a combined total of about 28 Asian and Asian American contestants on the US show out of 367. But I think the boiling point for this take was around BB22, especially since there have been valid criticism on the lack of Asian contestants on the show. I haven't seen every season though, but based on what I do know and experience, I'll just go through a quick rundown of the Asian contestants we've had. Now, G and Jun were the first contestants on BB4. Yeah, they were exes. And Jun won the season by using her Florida strategy to swap power, use of the kitchen, and despite being disliked by the house, she used her former romance as a means to get far in the game and worked with the other person disliked by the jury to get to the end. And took advantage of why her final two's opponent was worse and won by a 6-1 vote, making her the first Asian American winner of Big Brother. And G was pretty liked in the house and as a person, though he made some strategic mistakes in the game. But he had the maturity to work with his ex when, let's just say, some people in the game didn't even have the maturity to try. Moving on to Big Brother 6, we have King Kaser. Yeah, he's got that worthy moment despite being someone eliminated at the pre-jury 4 times. So why does everyone love him? Well, he admitted he came on the show after 9/11 to prove the growing hate of Islamophobia and Muslims were unjustified, and proved himself as a well-likable, socially and caring person. In season 6, he rallied the other group of the house that didn't have an alliance into the Sovereign Six and got the opposing leader out of the house in the game with a good strategy. That they not only targeted him for eviction next week, but he got voted back in as the fan favorite to return to the game, only to get voted out again because the other side backtracked on the deal, which they are allowed to do, but his allies were so pissed that they sent the person responsible for him going home again out of the house over the leader of the group responsible. That's how much they cared about him. He also had 2 other contestants make racially motivated and insensitive remarks about him, one who wasn't white and the other one who definitely was, and we will talk about his role in Big Brother 22 later. And season 11 had Kevin, who was half black, half Japanese, and Russell. Kevin was more of a floater, shifting power and always trying to get into people's good graces in order to make sure that he survived, and a lot of people considered him an underappreciated player that came very close to winning since he ended up in 3rd place. You had Russell, who was always starting fights with people, verbally of course, being good for drama, but he still managed to make it close to the end on the jury, and a lot of people want him to return. And yes, a black contestant called him a terrorist for his aggressive behavior, and yeah, that wasn't deserved, and she did apologize for that. Season 13 had Dominic, who was pretty well respected and liked, but the problem was he was on an alliance of fans on new players on a season where half the contestants were returning fan favorites. But even though he got out early, he ended up having a showmance with season 8 contestant Danielle, and they eventually got married, so that's nice. Season 15 had Helen, and she was fairly well liked. Pretty good strategic mind for the game, and Don't get me wrong, the season is still known for having a lot of cast, a lot of racist stuff, and people did make jokes about her working in a nail salon and cooking rice, not to her face because some of them were cowards. But she was only evicted from the game because one of her allies wanted to turn on her, so she wouldn't get too far. But at least she almost got to the halfway points. Season 16 had Paula, who was evicted second because the majority of Alliance ended up protecting the other person on the block, though she was able to build some strong friendships before she got cut. It's a long story because that is a mess, but there's also Victoria, who wasn't necessarily liked by her cast and ended up being nominated for eviction a lot because the power players that were actually making moves that she had an alliance with helped her get all the way to third place. But ironically, had she did make it to the final two, some people actually said they would have voted for her. Season 17 had Jackie, who was pretty fun, but on the losing side of the alliance battle, as well as James, who was a fan favorite to the casual audience for pulling pranks and just being a pretty affable southern dude whose crush on the show never took him seriously, and that was enough to get him on season 18. Season 18 brought James back, where he actually had a showmance, but also had Bridget, and because of her association with Frank, even though she didn't necessarily do anything wrong, a lot of people bullied her and made fun of her for just trying to be nice and affable in the house, including making fun of her cooking, which was kind of uncalled for. Paul. Okay, season 18 and 19 had Paul, the Armenian. Let's just say people liked them on season 18 for being a little bit crass and not being afraid to speak their mind, despite being a recruit and also saying some questionable stuff. And then return on season 19, where they essentially ran the game kind of like a cult leader and made people a little bit salty because they ran the house like a cult, and a lot of the house decided to be like-minded followers that didn't realize that they were being picked off by them one by one, or said some things that could also be racially insensitive. And then they lost because they underestimated the superfan who brought them to the final two, who they also made fun of throughout the season, despite their being friends and allies. Then there was Alex, who I did not like one bit. Apparently, people say the edit tried to put her in a favorable light, because there was this incident where some misinterpretation resulted in someone thinking that she was trying to be racist against her. It was a misunderstanding, long story. But after that, she was just kind of a jerk to anyone, including some of the more nicer people in her alliance, including also spreading some rumors that are definitely not true and could actually hurt someone's career. But then we get to season 20, where we had our second Asian American winner in Casey, who, while people found her boring, she did what she had to do in order to win, be in a strong alliance, and get to the end with little blood on her hands, also while winning enough competitions. Then there's Fessies and Faisal on the opposing alliance, who was pretty dim and so bad at the game that he sent his own alliance member home, but he was a recruit, he made some mistakes, and I don't think he's a bad person. Oh, what was the camel that broke the back? Big Brother 21. Long story short, by week 3, fans kind of noticed that the first 3 people out of the game were the black guy, the Indian guy, and the black girl, David, Ovi, and Kimmy respectively, and while their gameplay was up for debate, a lot of people noticed that the majority of alliance of 6 to 8 to 9 were basically running things in the house, and Bella, the only Asian woman in the cast, was a part of it with her showmance Nick. But considering she had to form an alliance with some of the girls, but when her alliance was put on the block, she backstabbed the group to spare herself and send Kimmy home. And on the live feeds not aired on the show, we saw Jack being hostile to Kimmy over a bottle shaker of all things. Jack also making monkey noises at David. Jack body shaming Kimmy for eating an avocado sandwich after she worked out. Jackson talking about how David was going to run over the train over the women in the house, while said Jackson was also screwing Holly and Kat. And Bella was in these rooms with them laughing, and Kimmy was called a maggot. The same Jack who said Kimmy makes me want to stop a mud hole through her chest. Keep in mind, Bella was actually popular coming into the season. People thought she was going to be this fun-loving party girl, and then realized that was more a Kat's thing than Bella, since Bella went from having Kimmy's back to supporting the trash-talking behind the scenes. Then when her friend Nicole, the nicest person, tried to find out about Bella's own alliance, was distrusting her and calling her a bully and trying to warn her about this, Bella decided to rat Nicole out to try and save face for her alliance, and the 9 of them spent time in the HOH room hollering and making fun of Nicole. Ovi, when he called them out for just being dickish to one another, and Bella's own allies went from planning to vote out Nicole to flipping the vote on Cliff against what Bella and her showmates Nick wanted. Then Bella and Nick found themselves on the outside of the alliance directly afterwards, and with Chrissy's power into play, they used Nicole's allies to try and vote her off, and succeeded. Then, yikes. While she was home and her showmance was still in the game before he got eliminated and sent to the jury house, he ended up flirting with non-Asian girlfriend Kat while he was in the jury house and hooked up with her, essentially cheating on his new girlfriend, and all she could do was wait until the finale to call him out on being filth. And yeah, this was someone she had trusted her whole game with, mind you, and that's just messed up. So, Bella threw all her female friends under the bus, leaked key information, bullied the nicest person who tried to warn her that her alliance was starting to join against her, but you feel bad for her just because she got cheated on? Yes! Paul, do you remember what I said 2 months ago?
Then Jen's final choice and evil diet Pete Davidson in Devon turned out to have a restraining order placed on him.
Okay, not that one, but the other statements.
But thanks to a lot of bad faith actors on the internet, some Asian women are treated as a better alternative and a submissive option for men, when in real life, a lot of Asian women have talked about how it's hard for them to date because some are seen as less desirable and others barely value as human, which is so sad when you think about it, especially given what happened on Jen's season.
The girl isn't a saint, but being a person of color, finding out at home your partner is cheating on you with a white person and none of your so-called friends had your back in the game is just really disheartening for anyone to go through. Also, let's not forget the fact that you're isolated on a studio lot surrounded by 15 other people who you don't even share the same ethnicity as, and you're the lone minority in a group of people who have already proven themselves to be extremely toxic and volatile, and you manage to get into the good graces by the virtue of having a relationship and having a showman's partner that also has similarities to the other group. So you continue to integrate yourself and put yourself in a toxic environment without recognizing those issues and harm that influence is having on you, or the fact that they're even making those type of jokes in the first place behind your back is freaking disgusting. And yeah, there are debates on even if some of those were taken out of context, but yeah, Bella didn't deserve that. No one does. And then there's Big Brother 22 and the 50% mandate that got included as a result. So how was All Stars 2? Not great. Basically, the dominant alliance kind of steamrolled the game by winning almost every competition and then picking off either those not in their alliance or turning on their allies the one time anyone else got power as a sacrificial lamb. And there were only 2 out of 16 Asian contestants at the time. They tried to get Jun and Casey back, the 2 only Asian winners, but June wasn't willing to leave her child during COVID, and Casey ended up getting COVID, and they weren't able to get any of the likable members from 15 back for some reason. They really should have brought back Helen, but they managed to get Kevin and Kaser back, so 2 out of 16 Asian All-Stars mixed in with 3 black players, so 5 out of 16 players of colors. So how did they do? Well, Kaser was taken out in 4th place for having the balls to fight the dominant alliance, but not before he delivered a brutal call-out to the passive play going on in the house. Kevin's Florida strategy couldn't work in the dominant alliance meta, and the black players were taken out one by one. Combined with accusations of microaggressions, people in the dominant alliance mocking one of the previous winners for their autism, this was fuel to the fire of Survivor players in late 2020 to convince CVS to introduce a diversity mandate, requiring its reality TV shows, including Survivor and Big Brother, to follow. And while it has its detractors, mostly racist, most Big Brother fans were relieved. For a while, many people have noticed that Big Brother was just casting based on archetypes. A black woman the producers were trying to make sassy, one gay guy, one nerdy person, the quirky southerner, then 70% of the cast being white bros, white girls, and influencers popping off on social media, with a 10% chance of having some bigotry in their veins. And when you cast the same archetypes and never alter the variables, the number of people getting cast, the lack of superfans and strategists and comp beasts, that aren't people of color, but just young Californians in their 20s popping off on Instagram who have never seen Big Brother or even care about it. That ended up with Big Brother 23's casting being such a breath of fresh air. A Big Brother YouTuber looked at the percentage and found that 95% of black Big Brother players don't make it past the halfway point in their seasons before that point. Some who are just bad at the game, fair, but all of which were outnumbered in the cast in some way or form, which is why despite the controversy of Big Brother 23 and then 24 and 25, the Cookout Alliance was one productive middle finger to the production for their casting decisions in the past 20-something years. Because this is about Asian History Month, I decided to check the percentage of Asian contestants who made it to the halfway mark, aka placing A for under, counting June, G, Kevin, Russell, Victoria, James again, Paul again, Alex, Casey. That's 11 out of 21 actually make it past the halfway point of the season. That's actually 52%. Not too bad. But if you add up to season 26 and not count 22, that leaves Hannah, Blue, Jack, Chemo, and Rubina. That's only a 53% of it Asian percent getting to the halfway point, even with just 1% increase. And during Big Brother 23, I remember quite a number of people upset that Derek X wasn't included. And truthfully, that anger is understandable, even if it was basically almost everyone from the Cookout that actually liked him. And he was second place of getting America's favorite player, so clearly the audience liked him too. So much so that him and Alyssa tried getting revenge on the Cookout members during the Challenge USA, which caused a bunch of pointless arguments both in the show and outside of the show. But again, Asian people shouldn't be blaming the black people who are calling out production for this. When again, most Big Brother fans want more Asian people to be cast, especially since then we've had more nuance, interesting, and even more unique scenarios and opportunities for these people to be more than just their archetype and, humanize them. Hell, look at 23. We had Derek Zhao, an Asian American recruit who only watched 2 seasons because he likes a production about being the superfan, and quickly rose to being a fan favorite. And then you had Hannah Chada, who both some people in the house and out of the house didn't see as Asian or black because she was mixed. And while she had to dismiss that narrative, even though the rest of the cookout invited her last, and for anyone who genuinely believes she's neither Asian or black, please educate yourself. Heck, one of Hannah's own alliance members didn't even want her in the group and usually called it the Cookout Plus Hannah, and that was completely uncalled for. Okay, like, sure, Joseph and Nicole were on opposite ends of hero and villain in 24, but Joseph talked about downplaying his threat level, was one of the key people responsible for founding the Leftovers, fought back against the bullying done to Taylor, and was a key player in actually improving the reputation of the season when they flipped the house and started taking control. Meanwhile, Nicole was a power player earlier on in the beginning, and like Bella, became a victim to groupthink, targeted Taylor, way too more than she actually should have, despite Taylor wanting to autograph her, and ended up out the door. And in Big Brother 25, we ended up with Jack getting eliminated and resurrected in the game, making it all the way to the finale and winning. And while his loyalty to Matt was because he wanted to represent being Sikh as best as he can, despite backstabbing almost everyone else out of the game to get to that role, while Blue was involved in a showmance where, despite her immaturity, she was way more unique compared to her partner, and we got to see her try to navigate the game after all her plans imploded in her face. And in 26, you had Matt versus Angela, which went hard on week 1, with both of them having actions you can definitely blame the other one for causing, with Angela making fun of his eyes, which you really could argue was racially insensitive, and Matt low-key threatening her and also blowing up his own game with his ego, which the show really should have put more on screen, but semantics. Then you have Rubina in a showmance and being targeted numerous times, but having to fight for safety. And then there's Chemo, who's responsible for one of the biggest blindsides. And like I said before, he was going to go home until his speech got Chelsea and Mackenzie to change their votes for him to stay and send Joseph packing. And that's amazing. But yeah, Asian contestants in Big Brother are getting better, but like how Big Brother started casting like at least 4 and more black people this season, and 26 had the most with 3 Asian people, that number should be pumped up to at least 4 people of Asian descent because, yeah, having more people of color as superfans, comp beasts, and strategic masterminds should be something that's done more often. Like, Amira's black, but they recruited her off of LinkedIn, and people still say she's an early boot for a second chance run. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. Was I right in some areas? Do you think Asian representation in Big Brother has improved? And are there still areas of improvements? Let me know, like, comment, and subscribe, and BIP was our Interest Productions, signing off.